ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಇನ್ನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜನ ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಬಟ್ ನಾವು ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ we have time only till 7 o'clock. ಸೊ ಇವತ್ತು ನಾವು ಸೇರಿದ್ದು ಇದು ಬ್ಯಾಂಗ್ಳೂರ್ ಮೆಟ್ರೋಪಾಲಿಟನ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಅಥಾರಿಟಿ ಬಿಲ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ. ಇದು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಸೆಪ್ಟೆಂಬರ್ ಇಂದ ಈ ಬಿಲ್ಲು ಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್ ಡೊಮೈನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವೈಲಬಲ್ ಇದೆ. ನಾವು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ತುಂಬಾ ಜನ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾಯ್ನ್ ಆಗಿರೋರು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಮೊಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಇಶ್ಯೂ ಮೇಲೆ, ಸಿಟಿ ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್, ಮಾಸ್ಟರ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇಶ್ಯೂಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಹಲವಾರು ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಈ ಒಂದು ಬಿಲ್ದು ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್, ಅದ್ರದ್ದು ರೋಲು ಎಲ್ಲ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಡಿಮಾಂಡು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು ಈ ತರ ಒಂದು ಬಿಲ್ ಬರ್ಬೇಕಂತ. ಸೊ we thought that it will be a good opportunity for all of us to come together and discuss what this draft bill is proposing and what our collective views and concerns are on about this bill. How we will proceed today is we have quite a few people who have looked into the bill and will share their views. I mean, so we have specifically invited a couple of people, basically Devri sir, Mukunda sir, Leo, Katyani, Matthew, Tara, and also we have representatives from the unions, the BMTC unions and auto unions. So we thought we'll have a diverse group of people commenting on the bill. So the first 1 hour we will spend with the invited guests commenting on the bill, and then the next 1 hour we can have open discussion with everyone else also sharing their views. ಸೊ ಇದು ಫಸ್ಟ್ 1 hour ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ತುಂಬಾ ಜನ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೂ ವಿ ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಎವ್ರಿವನ್ ಟು ಕೀಪ್ ಯುವರ್ ರಿಮಾರ್ಕ್ಸ್ ಟು 5 to 7 minutes. ಅಂಡ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಎಲ್ಲರದು ಒಂದು ರೌಂಡ್ ಶೇರಿಂಗ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಓಪನ್ ಅಪ್ ಫಾರ್ ಫರ್ದರ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ಅವಾಗ ಇನ್ನೂ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇರೋದು ಆಮೇಲೆನೂ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಹೌ ವಿ ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಪ್ರೊಸೀಡ್ ಟುಡೇ. Vinay, hi there. I'll request Vinay from Bus Prayanikara Vedike to make a few introductory remarks, and then we'll go one by one with the participants. Vinay?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eldrigu namaskara. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining this discussion organized by BBPV on the BMLTA bill. ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಸಾರಿಗೆ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಅಥವಾ ಸಾರಿಗೆ ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟಂತೆ ದಶಕಗಳಿಂದ ಹಲವಾರು ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳಿದಾವೆ. ಅದು ಆ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳು ಒಂದು ಕಂಜೆಷನ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ, ಕಂಜೆಷನ್ ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋದು. ಬಟ್ ಇನ್ನೊಂದ್ ಕಡೆ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಸಾರಿಗೆ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ಸರಿಗೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡದೇ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಎಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಜನರ ಜೀವನೋಪಾಯದ ಹಕ್ಕು ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು ವಿದ್ಯಾಭ್ಯಾಸದ ಹಕ್ಕು ಇವೆಲ್ಲಾನು ಸಹ ಅಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಎಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿ ನಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗೋರ್ದು, ಬಸ್ ಪ್ರಯಾಣಿಕರದು. ಸೊ ನಾವು ಒಂದ್ ಕಡೆ ಕಂಜೆಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು, ಇನ್ನೊಂದ್ ಕಡೆ ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟೊಂದ್ ಜನರು ಮನೆಗಳು ತುಂಬಾ ದೂರ ಇರ್ತವೆ. ಅವ್ರು ಒಂದ್ ಬಸ್ ಹಿಡಿದು ಒಂದ್ ಕೆಲ್ಸಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗೋಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಿಗೆ 1.5 to 2 hours ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅಥವಾ ಬಸ್ ದರ ಸರ್ಕಾರ BMTC ಮೇಲೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಆಗದೆ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಬಸ್ ದರ ಸಹ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದೆ. ಅಥವಾ ಎಷ್ಟೊಂದ್ ಜನ ಸೈಕಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗೋರ್ಗೆ, ಹೋಟೆಲ್ ವೇಟರ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಅವರೆಲ್ಲ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಸೈಕಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು, ನೈಟ್ ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವ್ದು ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಸಾರಿಗೆ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ, ಉತ್ತಮವಾದ ಸಾರಿಗೆ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಇಲ್ದಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಹಲವಾರು ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಕಂಜೆಷನ್ ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಒಂದ್ ಕಡೆ ಆದ್ರೆ ಜನರ ಒಂದು ಜೀವನೋಪಾಯ ಮತ್ತೆ ಅವರ ಒಂದು ವಿದ್ಯಾಭ್ಯಾಸದ ಹಕ್ಕು ಸಹ ಅಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಈ ರೀತಿ ಒಂದು ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಇರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಆ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಯ ಒಂದು ಭಾಗ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಒಂದು ಕೋಆರ್ಡಿನೇಷನ್ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರೋದು, ಏಜೆನ್ಸಿಗಳದ್ದು ಕೋಆರ್ಡಿನೇಷನ್ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು ಟ್ರಾಫಿಕ್ ಅಥವಾ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರೋದು. ಬಟ್ ಇನ್ನೊಂದ್ ಕಡೆ ಈ ಒಂದು ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಜಸ್ಟಿಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ಈ ನಗರದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರ್ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಏನೇನ್ ಹಕ್ಕಿದೆ ಅಂತಾನೂ ಸಹ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. Mobility is a serious concern in Bangalore since a few decades. Unfortunately, when we talk of mobility, we mostly talk about congestion and pollution. But the fact that the lack of accessible public transport system and the lack of safe roads also mean that several people who are dependent on, say, cycle and bus, their education rights and their right to livelihood also gets affected. The reason I'm mentioning all this while discussing BMLTA is that the government has finally brought in a BMLTA bill, something which people have been speaking about for long. But when we look at BMLTA outside of these contexts, that also becomes difficult. So when we are gathered here today to discuss the BMLTA bill, we also want to kind of discuss it in a broader context. So that's also one of the things that we want to address today. Secondly, the BMLTA bill is something that many people have been asking for long, but this particular BMLTA bill, how does it fit in with what several of us have also been fighting for, which is a democratic, decentralized decision making in the city, right? In the context of climate change, in the context of a city which has been hit by centralized, top-heavy decision making, how does this BMLTA bill work? What are the aspects of the BMLTA? There are some other states which have had BMLTA bills, and other aspects from those states which have been considered. How we are a city which doesn't have a master plan since many years. We're a city where we don't know if we'll be 2.3 crore population by 2030. We don't know if we're a city we want to keep growing or like we want to restrict because our carrying capacity is less. So there are all of these concerns, and when all of these concerns are there at this junction, the government has introduced this BMLTA bill. Given the fact that transport is such a serious crisis, and BMLTA bill or like a BMLTA or some kind of a coordinated transport planning is a possible solution, it's important that this solution is well thought out of, and it's important that this solution is in line with our constitutional principles of democratic, decentralized decision making. And it's important that this solution will actually address the root causes of the problem and will not contribute to it. So in that light, we would have ideally hoped that the government had a public discussion on this BMLTA bill so that everybody can share their views. ಈ ಒಂದು ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಕರಡು ಕಾನೂನು ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಒಂದು ಸಾರ್ವಜನಿಕ ಚರ್ಚೆ ಆಯೋಜಿಸಿದ್ರೆ ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಒಂದು ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯ ಹಂಚ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಅವಕಾಶ ಇರ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು. ಬಟ್ ಅದೊಂದು ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರೋ ಒಂದು ಕಾರಣ ನಾವೇ ಚರ್ಚೆಗಳ ಆಯೋಜಿಸಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಬಸ್ ಪ್ರಯಾಣಿಕರ ವೇದಿಕೆಯಿಂದ ಸಹ ಈ ಒಂದು ಚರ್ಚೆನ ಆಯೋಜಿಸಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ನಾವು BMLTA ಶೋಷಿತ ಸಮುದಾಯಗಳಿಗೆ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಸಾರಿಗೆ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಯ ಒಂದು ಮೂಲ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳನ್ನ ಎದುರಿಸಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗುತ್ತಾ, ಈ ಒಂದು ಹೊಸ ಕಾನೂನು ನಮ್ಮ ಸಂವಿಧಾನಿಕ ಮೌಲ್ಯಗಳ ನಿಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆಯಾ ಅಥವಾ ಸಂವಿಧಾನದ ಮೌಲ್ಯಗಳಿಗೆ ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟಂತೆ ಅದ್ರ ವಿರುದ್ಧವಾಗಿ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ, ಮತ್ತೆ ನಾವೊಂದು ಏನು ಜನರ ಒಂದು ಅಗತ್ಯಗಳಿಗೆ, ಜನರ ಒಂದು ಆಶಯಗಳಿಗೆ ನೀತಿಗಳು ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಹೋಗುತ್ತಾ ಈ ಬಿಲ್ ಅಥವಾ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ವಿರುದ್ಧವಾಗಿ ಹೋಗುತ್ತಾ ಈ ಒಂದು ಕರಡು ಕಾನೂನು ಅನ್ನೋದು, ಇದೆಲ್ಲಾನು ಸಹ ಚರ್ಚೆ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಅಂತೂ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ, ಬಟ್ ನಾವಾದ್ರೂ ಸಹ ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಚರ್ಚೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸ್ತು. ಸೊ ಆ ಒಂದು ನಿಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಒಂದು ಚರ್ಚೆನ ಆಯೋಜಿಸಿದೀವಿ. ಇದೆಲ್ಲಾನು ಸಹ ಚರ್ಚೆ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಎಲ್ಲರ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯಗಳು ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿಕ್ಕೆ. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಚರ್ಚೆ ಆದ ನಂತರ ವಿಲ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಸಿ ಇಫ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಆಲ್ ಕಮ್ ಟುಗೆದರ್ ಟು ಮೇಕ್ ಸಮ್ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಾಂಪ್ರಿಹೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ರೆಕಮೆಂಡೇಶನ್ಸ್ ಟು ದ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆನ್ ವಾಟ್ ಅ BMLTA bill should look like and what are the things to be kept in mind. So it's towards a kind of a collective a citizens collective participation on this bill and like working on this bill. It's towards that direction that we've called this meeting, so that to at least some extent the will of the people and the needs of the people should be centered when this legislation is ultimately tabled on the floor of the Karnataka Assembly and Council. So this was just a few thoughts to start off with. Shaheen, back to you.
Thanks, Vinay. Katyani, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಮೀಟಿಂಗ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು ಬೇಗ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. So we will start maybe with Katyani making her remarks. Katyani, may I request you to please unmute yourself and also maybe share your video if possible.
Yeah, ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. Good evening to all. Thank you, Shaheen and ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಬಸ್ ಪ್ರಯಾಣಿಕರ ವೇದಿಕೆ ನನ್ಗೆ ಆಪರ್ಚುನಿಟಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾತಾಡೋದಿಕ್ಕೆ. ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ನಾನು ಕ್ವಿಕ್ಲಿ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಗ್ಲಾನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ, ತುಂಬಾ ಟೈಮ್ ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅದನ್ನ ಡೀಟೇಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ. ಬಟ್ 3 points I could note. I'm sure everybody else is also going to talk about it. So ನನ್ಗನ್ಸಿದ್ದು ಒಂದು ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಅಥಾರಿಟಿ ಹೇಗೆ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಅದ್ರ ಕೆಲ್ಸಗಳೇನು ಅಂತ ಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಔಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವೇನು ಒಂದು ನ್ಯೂನತೆ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸಸ್ಟೈನಬಲ್ ಅರ್ಬನ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕೂಡ ಅವರು ಡಿಫೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಪ್ರೈವೇಟ್ ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ಸ್ ನ ಲಿಮಿಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಕೂಡ ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಸೊ ಅದೇನೇನೆ ಮೇನ್ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಒಳ್ಳೇದು. ಬಟ್ it is just a listing of objectives. So and they say on each of the sectoral issues we are going to frame policies. Onondu sectoral issue baggenu ee authority is going to frame a policy. So policy hegirutte adu innu gottilla. So this is just a framework for this much needed urban land transport authority. And ಸೊ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ನ್ಯೂನತೆ ಇವಾಗ ಸದ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ಪಾಲಿಸಿಗಳು ಫ್ರೇಮ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಐ ನೋಟಿಸ್ಡ್ ಇಸ್ ದಟ್ it will be integrated with the land use plan. There will be coordination between all the agencies ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬರ್ದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. But ಒಂದು it is a ludicrous inclusion that they have done, that the comprehensive mobility plan, if it has already been approved by the government, this authority shall undertake modification or revision of such comprehensive mobility plan. Andre devre avariddare illi, I think. So he knows ee comprehensive mobility plan na metro rail ge MOU ನಲ್ಲಿ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು, ನೀವ್ ಇದನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಬಿಫೋರ್ ಯು ಡೂ ಎನಿ ಆಫ್ ಯೋರ್ ಮೆಟ್ರೋ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಮೆಟ್ರೋಗೆ ಈ ಕೆಲಸನ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ರು ಟು ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಅ ಕಾಂಪ್ರಿಹೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ಮೊಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಪ್ಲಾನ್. ಹೌ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಮೆಟ್ರೋ ರೈಲ್ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಅ mobility plan for entire city? Is that the authority to frame the policy? That is the big question. But ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅದು ಮಾಡದೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ದುಡ್ಡು ಕೊಡಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಏನೋ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಅವರು ಅದನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಆಗ್ಲೇ. ಸೊ ಇದು ವಿಪರ್ಯಾಸ ಏನು ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಒನ್ ಕಾಂಪ್ರಿಹೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ಮೊಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಹಸ್ ಬಿನ್ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ಡ್ ಬೈ BMRCL ವಿದೌಟ್ ಎನಿ ಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್ ಕನ್ಸಲ್ಟೇಷನ್. ನಮ್ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರು ಯಾವ ತರ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಈ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಅಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು. ಸೊ ಇವಾಗ ಇದು ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಪುಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ದ ಕಾರ್ಟ್ ಬಿಫೋರ್ ದ ಹಾರ್ಸ್. ಸೊ after making the plan, you are setting up a BMLTA andre ಏನadರಲ್ಲಿ ಅರ್ಥ? Already plan has been made. So this authority has power only to revise it or to modify it. So ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. So this is the whole BMLTA looks like an eyewash if you look at this provision, that it can only modify or revise the plan and already were made. So, and also it is saying that the planning authority shall prepare land use plan as part of the master plan of the city. Anta ide andre yojane pradhikara land use plan na ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ as part of the master plan. So ನಾವ್ ಅನ್ಕೋತೀವಿ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಮೊದಲು ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಕಾಂಪ್ರಿಹೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ಮೊಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ತಕ್ಕಂಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂತ. ಬಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ವಿಪರ್ಯಾಸ ಏನು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಹೂ ಇಸ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್ ಅಥಾರಿಟಿ ಅಂತೂ ಹೇಳಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯೋಜನೆ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಪ್ರಾಧಿಕಾರ, ಮಾಸ್ಟರ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಪ್ರಾಧಿಕಾರ ಯಾವುದು ಅಂತ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮೆನ್ಷನ್ನೇ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ನಮ್ಗೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋ ಹಾಗೆ BDA ಏರಿಯಾನಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್ ಅಥಾರಿಟಿ, ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಸ್ಟರ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಯಾರು ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮೆಟ್ರೋಪಾಲಿಟನ್ ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್ ಕಮಿಟಿ ಅಂತ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಿದೆ. ಬಟ್ ಇದು ಇಡೀ ಬಿಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮೆಟ್ರೋಪಾಲಿಟನ್ ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್ ಕಮಿಟಿ ಅಂತ ಮೆನ್ಷನ್ನೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಹೂ ಇಸ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪ್ಲಾನಿಂಗ್ ಅಥಾರಿಟಿ ಅಂತಲೇ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಗೋಚರ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಆರ್ ದೇ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ವಿತ್ BDA as the planning authority, or are they going to recognize Metropolitan Planning Committee as the planning authority? There's absolutely total vacuum about it. So this is another very disturbing provision in the bill. And unless they specify that Metropolitan Planning Committee will be the planning authority which will prepare the land use plan, what is this BMLTA going to do? So looks like another iWatch, which is going to completely neglect MTC as a planning authority. And the other third ವಿಪರ್ಯಾಸ ನನಗೆ ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು, ಮೊದಲು ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ತಕ್ಕಂಗೆ ಮೊಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರ, ಅಥವಾ ಮೊಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಆಮೇಲೆ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರ. ಅದನ್ನ ಕೂಡ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಏನು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ by the planning authority will take into consideration the comprehensive mobility plan. So, ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಕಾಂಪ್ರಿಹೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ಮೊಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಆಗ್ಲೇ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ, ಅಂಡ್ ಮಾಸ್ಟರ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ that will be in accordance with the mobility plan ಅಂತ. So, this is totally skewed way of planning, because first you must have a master plan, and under that you have to have a comprehensive mobility plan. But again, it already madbittirodrinda, they are saying master plan should be in coherence with the comprehensive mobility plan. So idu really ಮೂರು ವಿಪರ್ಯಾಸದ ವಿಷಯಗಳಿದೆ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ. So all the three are very, very deceptive provisions, which is going to not really bring about any kind of useful planning for the mobility plan, I feel. So my submission is the master plan should come first, and then the comprehensive mobility plan should have come. I don't know if others will agree with me, but I think I've spoken enough. So I'll stop here. Thank you, Shaheen and Vinay and everybody for giving me this opportunity. So I'll listen to a few others before I leave. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Katyani, for those very important observations that you made on the bill. Again, I have a couple of requests from people who have to leave early. So I'm doing the scheduling based on that now. I'll request Devdev sir from Bangalore Environment Trust to share his observations next.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll be speaking only in English. Please excuse me for that. Since Katyani brought up the subject of CMP, I just want to make 2-3 points. On page 22 of the draft bill, there is an extremely smart paragraph which Katyani read but missed the two important words, so which I want to actually mention. Prior to constitution of the authority, if a comprehensive mobility plan has already been approved by the government, the authority shall, if necessary, undertake the responsibility of any modification or revision of such comprehensive mobility plan and implement it in accordance with the Act. Now, this is such smart wording. It is said after the BMLTA is formed that no revision or change in the comprehensive mobility plan is felt necessary, and therefore the plan, the comprehensive mobility plan will stay. Now, there are so many flaws in this CMP that it needs to be redrawn for a variety of reasons. And one of the reasons which Katyani mentioned is that the master plan has to come first. I mean, there can be no doubt about it. And so, in further some of the provisions of this, they say that the CMP will stay. It will be the basis for adjusting the master plan. Now, this is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, one can't just believe this.
Yes.
And another thing that has been mentioned over here is that the CMP will be drawn in consultation with the public. Public suggestions will be invited. Now, actually, Katyani, I want to correct that even BMRCL had invited suggestions. It's not that they didn't do it, but overwhelmingly, people had suggested to drop the elevated corridor. And the elevated corridors made a backdoor entry. Now, for the last 1.5 years, I have been asking BMRCL for all the suggestions that they received, and they are refusing to give. they send me to DULT, DULT send me to BMRCL, and both of them send me to UDD. And nobody is giving those suggestions. Now, the clause in this bill says that the suggestions will be considered. Now, my contention is that, first of all, the suggestions have to be taken seriously. A summary of all the suggestions must be made. And if any suggestions overwhelmingly made are being rejected, reasons must be provided why these suggestions are being rejected. And there are a couple of Supreme Court judgments in this regard. So that's absolutely necessary. And therefore, this particular part of the BMLTA bill pertaining to CMP is very, very flawed, and it must therefore be dropped. It must just not go through. So this is what I wanted to say about CMP. And if time permits and if Shaheen allows, I'll make the other points that I have. But this, by far, to my mind, is the most important point, because preparation of CMP is the most important responsibility of the BMLTA authority. And if that itself has been so provided with so many flaws, then the bill doesn't make sense, according to me. So I'll stop here. If time permits, I have a couple of other points which I shall make later on.
Thank you very much, Devre sir. I now request Leo Saldana from Environment Support Group to go next and share his observations on the bill. Leo?
I see Mukunda there. If Mukunda wants to speak, I will follow him.
We are okay with that. Mukunda sir, sir, you're on mute. Please unmute yourself and. Sir, ನೀವು mute ಅಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀರಿ. Yes, sir.
See, my basic point is, as Devaru rightly pointed out, the actual comprehensive mobility plan will have to be drawn up first. Before that, a visioning document has to be drawn up. The first step is visioning document, then a draft mobility plan, then the final mobility plan, wherein public is consulted completely as to what should be done and what are the suggestions and what are the things to be included. For example, what should be a mobility plan include? First of all, it should very clearly state that it should be a commuter-friendly, affordable, and dependable multimodal transport system. And this should be, this Land Transport Authority should be the overarching agency which will plan and then assign the portions relating to metro, to BMRCL, the commuter rail, to the whatever new corporation they're created, which is still on paper, and then the BMTC. And if tomorrow you decide that trams should also be included, for example, in the bus lane that they have done on the ORR, trams are more suited than buses. So if trams come into existence in Bangalore, that also should be included into this. And all these people should come under BMLTA, and BMLTA should decide about the role to be played by each of these agencies. Next, a common ticketing mechanism has to be created, and that should also be the responsibility of BMLTA. Then the provision for providing enough space for private transport in terms of good road network, and most importantly for pedestrians, proper pedestrian footpaths are a must. That should also be given equal importance, and all these things should be decided by BMLTA, and these things should be implemented by the respective agency. So it includes BBMP also for roads and footpaths. It includes metro It includes the Commuter Rail Corporation, and it should include BMTC also. But I don't think these people have done it. In fact, to be very frank with you, I don't believe in going through this, because by making us to go through these draft plans, they will purposely limit our thinking to the framework created by them. I would like to think independently of this so-called draft plan. We should give them a plan. First revision document, and then from there the draft plan, and then start doing things. It may be a little late in the day because already the first phase of metro is over. BMTC, of course, is in existence. It can always be altered and modified. That's not an issue. But commuter rail, I don't know when it is going to see the light of the day. Something or the other will be missing. It all depends upon how many elections we can hold. And for each election, this will be announced. That is all what is being done. Nothing is happening as far as commuter rail is concerned. Whereas commuter rail is one of the most important. I'll give you an example. BMLTA should decide the proportion of public transport and private transport. And the normal standard practice throughout the world is 70% of the trips that are generated each day in a city is carried by the public transport, and only 30% by private transport. So that has to be decided first. And after we decide that, among the, out of that 70% that is supposed to be carried by public transport, what is the ratio of each one of these? Metro, commuter rail, and BMTC. One possible suggestion is 40-40-30 should be a good starting point. 40% metro, 40% commuter rail, and 30% by BMTC. And how should BMTC rationalize its routes? Now, the BMTC is suffering a lot of losses because they're still sticking on to the old system of hub and spoke system, which no longer is relevant in the present context of having a multimodal transport system. The hub and spoke system does not work. So they should act as an agency which will supplement the requirements of the other arms also, and concentrate more on feeder services, which will provide a means of catchment for the other means of transport like commuter rail and metro. That is important. If anybody has come from Pina, if you go around Pina between 7:30 and 9:30 in the morning, you will see at least 500,000 women walking, trudging. And by the time they reach their workplace, they'll be fagged out and the productivity comes down. So such people also have to provide the transport facility. Unfortunately, now the BMRCL has devised the plan in such a way that the routing of BMRCL and commuter rail runs almost parallel to each other, cannibalizing each other. That is not the way this thing should be thought of. There must be a different approach to each one of these modes, which has to be discussed. We can have a separate meeting for that. Definitely there are ways of doing it. There are plans also, which have been done by so many small interested groups. All these things should be collected, collated, and then a draft plan has to be drawn up. And this, as I told earlier, this common ticketing is the most important thing, because the travel from the home to the place of work and from the place of work back to home should be a seamless one. It should not be made that the commuter is expected to catch a bus, buy a bus ticket, get down from the bus, go to the metro station, buy a metro ticket, or go to a commuter rail station, buy a commuter rail ticket, or both, depending upon the length of commute. And this becomes a tedious affair. Whereas if you have a common ticket, which can be easily devised, it is not a big problem, that could be done. It should be immediately implemented, and the fare fixing also has to be done by BMLTA. Here, one important factor has to be taken into account. We should take into account the needs of the low-income groups, where a part of the fare has to be subsidized. So they should carry a different card. If that card is swiped across the stools in front of the stations. These people should be expected to pay only 50% of the money should be deducted from them, and the other 50% should go to a government account, which should be settled once in a month or once in 3 months, so that there is no question of any lag between the payment of subsidy and the organizations suffering on account of that. These are all the important issues. There are so many other issues also. I'm sure that others also would like to put in their views. And I will stop at this. And after that, if time permits, I'll give you some more views also. Thank you.
Thank you, Mukunda sir. Leo, will you go next?
Yeah, thanks for this opportunity. Because it is 7 minutes, I'll speak in English. And if necessary, I'll speak later in Kannada. First and foremost, I think from my point of view, the word authority here is to be understood. This is a parastatal agency usurping authority over a municipal corporation and its objectives, and fundamentally and frontally violating the constitutional mandate as is there in Article 243 ZD and for district planning committees and ZD for metropolitan planning committees. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, Leo, we can hear you.
All right. So this, that said, I think one thing is pretty clear in this. It seems to me that this was a bill that was drafted outside of the sovereign powers of the government. In other words, it was drafted by investors who are interested in investing in infrastructure, and that to transport infrastructure or financing the same, or by those who have vested interest in gaining from such developments. I say this because if you see the clause 22, and I just read a part of it, 22.3 for instance. The suggestions, if any, made by the authority shall be duly considered and incorporated in the draft of the master plan, and the draft of the master plan shall be sent to the authority for its concurrence. So if you try to understand the implications of it, firstly, the Constitution in 1992 was amended to provide a frontal role, and not just a frontal role, a constitutional role for local governments to shape a metropolitan area or a city or a town based on the imaginaries which have evolved ground up. That is why there are ward committees. In Karnataka, it was further devolved to area sabhas, which have never been activated. And the ward committees would then be the fulcrum of imagining, which would be executed through the council of the corporation or the municipal Mahanagara Palika, as we call it. That is the mechanism which is embedded in the Constitution. Now, if they had any intention of violating that, I think it's fair to ask them to have gone to the constitutional authority, which is the parliament, and sought an amendment to that and said, okay, henceforth India is going to go a different route where the private sector will come in and decide what citizens want. Now that happens in China. The private sector, or what they call People's Party, is actually a lot of massive private corporations. And if you see cities like Beijing and Shanghai, you can see how transport development has defined how you live. Not how you live defining transport development. All right. So if you don't know how to live around the transport corridors, you get out. And they have been nice in China that they have taken those people who don't know how to live along those transport corridors, especially the Wutangs in Beijing and the villages, and stack them up in apartment blocks outside the city. And then they'll throw some roads to them and some metro rail and other things and say, okay, now here's your transport. Now you live. Now, I guess too many of our IAS officers have gone to Shanghai and Beijing. But my worry is that it is not just them that are shaping this. My colleague Janani is here. She's also posted an RTI response we have received from BMRCL. If you can share it, you share it. But if you can't share it, you just open it and you can see it for yourselves. This is a very simple request. You might have read that World Resources Institute and BMRCL and DULT together came up with a plan to, what's the thing that they called it? Some plan for something to do with urban mobility.
Transit-oriented development.
Transit-oriented development plan, basically mobility, right? Transit-oriented development plan is how do you make money out of land which is abutting major transit routes, arterial roads, metro, and so on. And look at the answer. WRI has been assigned the task of providing technical advisory support for ADB, TA, that is Asian Development Bank. Details of the same cannot be shared under the provision of Section 8(1)(d). Look at Section 8(1)(d) and what it says. Okay. Now, my point is this: WRI is an NGO. It is an American NGO. I have no problem. This is a free country. Anybody can come and work. But when WRI comes and works in Bangalore or India, it is bound by the constitutional mandate. And anything that WRI does, unless it is defense related or involves the security of the nation, I can't believe how it can be 8. Section 8 cannot apply. Secondly, it cannot apply also because it's not fiduciary. Fiduciary is that it has some transaction which cannot be publicly shared unless on a need to know basis. Neither of these two rules apply, yet Section 8 is being applied to deny us access to that document. Now, I recall when 2010, I guess, I asked for, Vinay Srinivas, somebody asked for a copy of the DPR of the metro. And finally, after a long struggle, it was obtained, I think, through Vinay's RTI. And then we put it up on ESG's website. Siv Selam, who was then the managing director, said he will take criminal action against me for putting it up on our website. And I told him, please go ahead and do it. You'll do me a service because I'm sure that you will lose and I will win, and then it will become a precedent. Of course, it didn't take criminal action against me, but the intent was that such plans are secretive. For instance, we are working on the All Saints Church issue, as we all know. We have asked for the plans, and the plans are, we are told, secretive. My point is, if you are doing mobility, where is defense in this? Where is transit-oriented at all a Section 8 exemption? And here, if you read the Section 22(3), it effectively says to a constitutional authority. Now, when I say draft master plan, as I read it here, since I'm not defined what the master plan is, we must understand that after the 1992 amendment, Bangalore Development Authority is technically or legally should be wound up. It doesn't have a role to play. Its role has to be played by the Metropolitan Planning Committee for metropolitan areas like Bangalore, otherwise districts. BD has not been wound up. At that time, I remember I used to work through Civic, and we struggled a lot in understanding why BMRDA was set up. Okay, then there was BMICAPA. Then there was one more, I forget now, for outer development, peripheral development of towns around. Okay. The point here is that the metropolitan area became so elastic as they saw business interest, so they created parastatals. For instance, BMICAPA was obviously opposed to the 1992 constitutional amendment of 74th Amendment, because land use planning was vested in the Metropolitan Planning Committee. And I remember fighting that issue from 1997, even now. And several of the farmers, thousands of farmers who have been impacted are on that point. And last year, there was a judgment that Justice Kanvilkar gave in the Supreme Court, in which he basically said the Town and Country Planning Act is sacrosanct. What the 1992 amendment did,
Small interruption on the time. We're running on 8 minutes now. Maybe in 1 more minute, do you think you can wrap up your initial remarks?
Okay, I may not be there later, so I'll just take 2 minutes if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
There's plenty that I want to add about the fact that this is all wrong. And my worry is this, that we are actually in a situation where I'd like to call this, this is a plan to weaponize transport development of urban areas. Okay, it is not a mobility plan. Sustainable mobility is being used here to get an headway into land use policies. You can see that in section 21A, integration of social, economic, and spatial development policies have to adjust to the policy on transport development that these fellows make. And I'm saying these fellows making policies without authority of the Constitution, without even legislative authority. In fact, they're saying that no authority agency under section 19(2), no authority agency department under state government shall initiate any public-private or public-private partnership concerning urban mobility without obtaining prior approval of the authority. Now just pause for a minute and understand what this means. That's a power which is there within the municipal council. And there is no business for any legislature to violate that, because unless you amend the Municipal Corporation Act and say, henceforth, this authority will be the supra authority and the rest of them will be subordinate to it, which then begs the question, then let's go and amend the 74th Amendment and make sure that the 74th Amendment is relegated to nothing. And we shall have a kind of a system in which international NGOs or international consultants, foreign private financiers like ADB or financial agencies, not private, IFIs like ADB or private financing institutions globally, BlackRock, for instance, can come in and decide we need a flyover, we need a elevated corridor, we need light rail systems, and our lives will dance around their whims and fancies. And like they did in Dubai, like they did in Singapore, like they did in Shanghai, once their investments are realized, once the return on investment is not an issue for them, they will go somewhere else. So Bangalore has now become a destination for what Michael Goldman rightly called it, a speculative urbanism. And here what we have is a frontal attack on the constitutional democracy of India. I'll stop at that.
Thank you so much, Leo. Tara from Citizens for Bangalore. She also has a time limit in terms of how long she can stay. So Tara, can you please unmute and make your remarks?
Sure. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Tara, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to everybody else for patiently waiting. And thank you for organizing this. All the stalwarts that have spoken before me have already addressed a lot of the very, very key and supremely salient issues. So I won't repeat it. I have a few very simple remarks. One is that the transport strategy for the city must be owned by the city itself, and the transport and the integration of that needs to be also owned by the city itself. In other words, the BMLTA or UMTA or whatever we want to call it needs to be a local city body. The successful cities that have done transport integration and have, like Mukunda sir was saying, 70% mass transit kind of a thing, are ones that actually proudly proclaim that their transport integration body is a local body, is a city. It reports to the city government. The transport strategy is set by the mayor. So I think these are extremely key. Unless the integrating body follows a strategy that is set by a local city elected representative, we citizens don't have a voice in molding it or shaping it. We see that so-called city bodies that are parastatals, we don't have a voice in molding it, shaping it, which means it must be an elected body, whether it's the MPC, whether it's the mayor himself or herself. And if it is not owned, if the transport strategy, once the transport strategy is set by the city, then the stated objective of the role, rather not objective, the role of this BMLTA needs to be to simply follow the transport strategy as set by the MPC, not vice versa, like Katyayani ma'am and Devre and others as well pointed out. Now, the third thing I'll say is that clear objectives need to be given as part of the strategy. This coming up with, notwithstanding who is setting this, okay, which is a very key point that I earlier mentioned. The setting of the objectives themselves, if you look at this bill, are all over the map that says, we'll integrate X and Y, and we will manage X and Y, we'll coordinate Y. The point is, what is your goal? For these kind of integration bodies to be successful, the goal needs to be, even before you arrive at 70% of the city transport will be through mass public transit, there is a higher level goal that says, we need to maximize the efficiency of the road, of the transport systems in the city, right? It derives, therefore, if all the decisions you make are to maximize the efficiency, then you automatically lean towards mass transit, mass public transit, which in turn, drives your, whether it's 70% or 60% or 80%. The next thing I'll say is that no matter what, beyond all of this, there must be sufficient emphasis, and it's like 0.19 out of 20 points. There needs to actually be a commissioner, and a part of the secretariat itself for this that emphasizes pedestrian transport, a pedestrian commissioner, if you will. That is something that falls off or is sort of also ran like today, and ends up with Bangalore being the city with the highest, most dangerous for pedestrians and highest fatalities. There is no integration of transport without walking across to get something, right? It's not just about ticketing. It's the fact that since our metros and our train stations and our bus stations already don't speak to each other, we have to walk across the road, or go take cross the road or whatever it is, which means that we must have a pedestrian commissioner that looks at pedestrian facilities as part of this. And lastly, I'll say that the bill needs to talk about where the funding for this will come from. And when it talks about the fact that the charter includes parking and congestion and so forth, does that mean that the fee generated in this goes into this body, or does it go into, because existing BBMP, this is where it goes to, and BBMP is already underfunded and stretched, that we know. So the parking fees and so forth go into this. What's the funding model for this? And lastly, I'll say that any city body with the chief minister as the authority is unviable, because it is just impossible. We already have a fundamental violation of citizen rights in the fact that a quasi-central union government body like the BMRCL is involved in this, which is not a local body. It's not even a state government body. It's a union government body. It's as bad as it gets if the BMRCL is going to call the shots or be the sort of the lead player or the driver of any of this. That should be an ultimate and the first, position of rejection of this outright. And then to have a state government representative, drive this is sort of yet another fallacy, if you will. So we need to have the local body elected representatives drive this. That's all I'll say. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tara. Now I'll request Matthew, who's a professor of law at Azim Premji University, and also works with various urban rights initiatives. I'll request Matthew to share his views on the bill.
Thanks, Shaheen, and thanks for promoting me to a professor also. Let me just sort of, I think some of the points have already come in, especially, what Katyani and Devre sir mentioned about the nature, the relationship between the CMP and the master plan. And honestly, and I think both of them really articulated this, making the master plan subservient to the comprehensive mobility plan, I believe is if you ask me what is one thing which is fundamentally problematic about the bill, it is about making the mobility, the master plan of the city, which as we know, and as Leo and others have spoken about, should firstly not be done by BDA, but should be done by the city government and the MPC together. So that's another issue. But whichever agency is preparing the master plan, which it should be under the constitution, it should be MPC with BBMP. But to make it, work under the master plan being subservient to the CMP is honestly, I believe, I don't know even if it'll, if it's legally even viable. So that's a fundamental problem, and I think it's well articulated. So, I don't want to get into that because that was something I thought I should highlight, but it's already been made. So I'll just make 4 other points very quickly. I have about 7 minutes. So just make 4 quick points, and I'll just say what these 4 points are. One is on the nature of the authority, what this authority seeks to do, what is the nature of the authority. The second point is about the jurisdiction of the authority. Third is about, the powers and the various, how the authority is exercised. And fourthly, just about how the CMP process is being mentioned under the bill. Very quickly, I'll just make these 4 points. So firstly, on the nature of authority, what it seeks to do, I think this is again something that Leo mentioned. What this bill seeks to do is that it centralizes decision-making of everything, almost everything in the city to a state level bureaucratic machine with almost no sort of political representation. It centralizes decision-making. The structure of the BMLTA is that it has almost no political representatives, at least no local level political representatives. The mayor is the only, one representative within this large body. And honestly, the BMLTA covers a region larger than BBMP, and it has no political representatives from any of the other local bodies, the panchayats and other local bodies within the BMLTA area. It has no provision for representation for any of these agencies. So and hence it's become it's largely a very bloated, I would say, very bloated, oversized agency with oversized bureaucratic agency with no political accountability. And honestly, as Leo also mentioned, it seems to question the basis of 74th Amendment and go against much of at least the spirit of it. So that's the nature of the authority, the point on that. Very quickly, on the jurisdiction, that's the second point. On the jurisdiction, I think there's something we might have missed. It seeks to create one more jurisdictional boundary. Something called in section 1, it's there, something called the urban mobility region. Now, what is this urban mobility region? The urban mobility region is again going to be issued by the government of Karnataka, which means that the urban mobility region can be the BBMP area, can be the BMLT, it's BBMP plus. So it could be the MPC area, it could be the BMRD area, it could be the BDA area. There is no consistency. There's not even an effort to refer it as the metropolitan region or metropolitan area. If you're talking about a BMLT, it should be the metropolitan area, which should coincide with the Metropolitan Planning Committee area. But here you're providing a parallel jurisdiction, which may or may not align with other jurisdictions. So the boundaries, the scale for which the CMP is made seems to be fundamentally problematic because you're creating another jurisdiction. You're creating a different boundary, of its own, which has no alignment with other boundaries. So that is on the jurisdiction and the boundaries. Very quickly on the authority question on how, the way in which the powers of the authority are mentioned, I would say that it is completely, confusing. There are too many agencies being created. Powers, functions, duties, all of them are mixed up. If you read it, there is a 31-member authority with mostly bureaucratic. Then there's a 16-member executive committee, which is pretty much most of the 31 members itself are sitting in the 16-member executive committee. There's no basis to understand why, because it's not even serving different purposes. Most of the powers, by the way, are in the 31-member authority, which only meets twice a year. The executive committee is supposed to meet more, but it has less powers, less operational powers. All of the powers is mostly still vested in the 31-member agency, and also huge discretion and a lot of powers being vested in the CEO. And the CEO, it's already decided it's the DOLT commissioner. There's not even any question about it. So this is a bill by which the DOLT is gathering power for itself, and the DOLT CEO has sort of decided that and much of the powers is vested in the DOLT CEO, and even the CM is getting wide powers. And CM being the convening agent, officer is itself problematic. So a lot of issues in terms of the number of authorities there, the nature of relationships, the duties, functions, the relations between all of that, fundamental issues there. And I mean, we can get into the details and provisions in the discussion. I mean, section wise, we can go into if required. For now, I'll just say that the broader point. And finally, on the comprehensive mobility plan and the nature of that instrument, I think, as I said, the biggest issue is what Katyayani has identified right in the beginning. That for me remains the biggest issue. But, you know, and also Leo also mentioned about the fact that, I mean, I think there is again this sort of a question about to what extent, you know, that the suggestions of the CM of the BMLTA should be incorporated. You know, whether even a law, you know, from an administrative legal point of view, whether one law can you know, necessitate and mandate its recommendations to be followed by another law. You know, I think even in terms of you know, consistency, that there's an issue there. But something that's something that you've sort of possibly might have missed out is that in terms of the kind of the way of making the plan, there is almost very limited public consultation in the CMP process. If you read it, it has no provision for participation. It merely says once a draft is prepared, it is put out for notice for 2 months. It doesn't say any participatory mechanism should be there in the CMP. So it is again a mostly, which is honestly the CMP process, the process of making the CMP. It merely lists out saying that, okay, CMP is made, public can comment. It is a pure comment, public comment option only for 2 months. No measures for any sort of you know, consultation or any sort of participation in the process. And finally, one small little point about how much the, you know, the BMLTA is being empowered. The BMLTA gets all kinds of rights on finance, and which I can understand to some extent. But it even says, if you read section 19.4, I'll end with this. If you read section 19.4, it says that if any other authority does any decision or makes anything in opposition to the you know, to the BMLTA, the BMLTA can direct such agencies to pull down, demolish, and remove any development undertaking. It is giving the BMLTA power to go and demolish constructions and demolish buildings, which I don't know, maybe BMTC has put up. And this sort of authoritarian, you know, sort of push whereby it can even go and demolish buildings just because it doesn't align with its plans seems to have, you know, be classic instances where the power has just been absolutely centralized in one body. So I'll end there, and if there are more things, you can take it up later.
Thank you very much, Matthew. So we've heard one round of comments and observations on the bill, and we've really, you know, heard some really excellent observations from all the speakers. Thank you everyone for your participation and the time and effort that you've taken in. We've seen that, you know, there are issues starting with the vision and objectives of the bill, to how it is constituted, what is its relationship with all the other agencies, what is its, you know, what is the nature of this body? I mean, how much bureaucracy, how much political representation, what about, you know, 74th Amendment and the devolution of powers and decentralization that is envisioned in that. What about public participation? So almost all of the things that we have been demanding in urban governance improvement in the last decade or more in the city, we are seeing, and you know, where small progress the city has been trying to make small progress, whether it is in constituting MPC or, you know, trying to get the ward committees to function. We all agree that, you know, that's not going as well as we would all like to see that happening, but BMLTA bill does not seem to be taking cognizance of any of these efforts or movements that the city or the citizens are trying to push for. So we are seeing that there are multiple, you know, fundamental issues with this bill. We'll now open the floor for discussion, and I can see Sandeep wants to make a point. I can see that Srinivas Rao has raised his hand. So I'll and Satyajit also. So maybe I'll take three names, and, you know, we'll go in that order. we are at 6-7 now, or maybe for the next 20 minutes or so, or maybe till 6:30, we can continue our discussions focusing on the bill. From 6:30 onwards, I'd also encourage everyone to probably also start making remarks about how we can, take our concerns to the government, and how do we get this bill to be in a better shape that would serve the interests and concerns that we're all raising here. So I'll request Sandeep, then Srinivas Rao, and Satyajit to make their remarks. Please try to keep it within 2-3 minutes so that we can let everyone else also participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaheen, for organizing this, and thanks to all the speakers before me for, I think, covering almost everything. So I just need to add, I was thinking of adding just one point, which is about how to empower citizen participation in our democracy. I think at the central level, there's this draft, or rather they have a policy on pre-legislative public consultation. I'd like to put the question out to everybody here on how we could possibly work together to creating such a provision, at least at the state level, in terms of whether it can be made a law or a policy on pre-legislative consultation as a mandatory requirement for every bill introduced and every, I think, amendment that's introduced. If that can be made a mandatory process, then I think we don't have to sit and fight or react to every bill introduction which we don't like. There will be a proper mechanism to deal with public feedback to each of the proposals. That is all I have to say. I'd love to hear what others have to say on whether this can be done, and if so, how it can be done. Because at one stroke, we can get rid of a lot of problems we have with every bill in every area and every department. We need this to be institutionalized. I'd love to hear from all of you. Thank you.
I'd just like to briefly also add that, bills being made available in Kannada should also be emphasized, because right now none of the bills are available in Kannada, and that itself limits participation significantly.
That's absolutely unfair. I mean, I'm certain that the official language of a state is Kannada, isn't it? And if you're going to have a legislation, a piece of legislation which is being introduced in a foreign language, that's shocking. So maybe these two things we need to discuss on how to institutionalize public pre-legislative consultation. And it has to obviously be in the language of the state, and it should engage the entire state, which means it has to go to every level, the state level, district level, panchayat level, and cities and urban local bodies. So I think, I don't know how, if we can all collectively work on, pushing something like this in front of the government and making them adopt it as a bill, that would be fantastic.
Thanks, Sandeep.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me a time for speaking on this occasion. Many experts have spoken. I don't have much to say. Of course, I am not a legal expert or transport expert. But what I want to say is something a little bit outside this scope of discussion. But definitely it is relevant to this. Question is, from where we start thinking about a master plan or implementing a plan. Something that can be done today, which meets the common sense, that they are not done. For example, you take the unscientific scheduling of routes. That is one thing. Second thing is, the most important point is, any mobility plan, any transport system should be integrated with the intersections. How do you manage the traffic intersections, and then the footpaths and the bus stops and commuter facilities? You take, for example, the Hepar junction. It's the worst junction that I have seen, and such many such junctions are there. Nobody is bothering about to improve the commuter facility there. Even BMTC itself, you have to get down here and walk half a kilometer and catch another bus. And people have to cross, even when vehicles are moving across, people are crossing pedestrians. Many times I have pointed out this, but nobody cares. So my point is that, see, we have to start from here to really, assimilate the points or the defects of the existing system and improve upon that. That itself we are not able to do, and they came to BMTC, or the government is not having the concern or the willpower or the resolve to do this. They go on doing whatever they want, whatever suits their agenda. Coming to the point of this present bill draft, what I feel is that instead of BMRCL designing or making a plan, they should go to a expert committee, technical committee, pure technical assignment, parameters or the terms and conditions, so that they must be experienced in, who have been experienced in planning, mobility system, transport system, integrated planning. It is a holistic planning. It should not be that only buses are running. No, buses are not running. That's not the only thing. So there are different modes of transport, plus interlinking the transport system, plus providing the commuter facilities also at various junctions, various intersections are related issues. So this also has to be planned. So this has to be done by an independent technical expert committee. And it has to be discussed in public with public consultation. Then only it has to be adopted. So then only we can hope that there'll be a better transport system for a city like Bangalore. Then one more last point, what I would like to say is, any such committees or the corporate, this thing they form, all these should be depoliticized. There should not be any politician in this. Because once a politician comes, there'll be only land grab. They think only of land grabbing. This every citizen in Bangalore knows what the politicians do. Their main agenda will be only to do land grab. So that should be averted first. Then practically they should conceive and design the transport system, and honestly they have to implement. The question is implementation. You can see I stay in an area called Thanisandra. Rampant encroachment is there.
Please try to wrap up your comment.
Yeah. Rampant encroachment is there. When you are allowing such things, how can you implement the master plans? So that is the question. So these 3 points also has to be taken into account. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Satya and then Agesh.
Good evening, Shaheen. And firstly, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Basically, just want to let everybody in the group know that I recently served as the Chief Technical Advisor to DULT. With that caveat, I believe I'm well placed to answer so many apprehensions which were raised in this forum earlier today. Firstly, this beast has taken a long time in the making. Yeah, it started in 2007 when the so-called BMLTA Executive Committee was formed on the directions of MOHUA, because they had to access the JNURM funds. The JNURM funds were made contingent if all of this transport agency talk to each other and there is some cohesion to thinking in terms of what's being achieved, and there's accountability to outcomes. And that's the reason the so-called Executive Committee of BMLTA was formed in 2007. And in fact, that particular Executive Committee is headed by BMRDA Commissioner, the BMRDA being the planning authority. So later on, the MOHUA themselves realized, just as an Executive Committee which is not empowered is not going to make any sense. So it has to come under the ambit of sort of a statutory authority, which were based not just on authoritarianism or trying to create one more bureaucratic organization. This was based on best principles adopted elsewhere, like the LTA in Singapore was able to manage to bring together disparate actors in 1994 to a cohesive and a world-class transport system in Singapore. And similar thing was done in London called the Transport for London. So everybody recognized that everybody is responsible, nobody's accountable situation in transport sector. BMRCL and Suburban Rail can plan corridors which are parallel to each other. Everyone can become cynical, everyone can become angry, but nothing has been done. Nobody can do anything about this. So in such a situation, BMLTA actually has got, I'm not saying this piece of legislation is ideal in everything. It has got an all singing, all dancing agenda to do things, but it's a step in the right direction to make sure all these disparate actors sit together and say, and earlier some of the members said, what is the vision for Bangalore? And starting from there, if you have a comprehensive vision agreed between all the actors, and then what is the CMP which is best suited to address that vision? That's how the conversation should start. So it's sort of a chicken and egg situation. We can debate about the ideal thing as to how this law should look, but I want to allay some apprehensions there. The law being, it only tells the essence of it. The rules and regulations can actually say CMP should be consulted in this manner and that manner. There will be opportunity to do so anyway. The law, no law will basically go to that level of detail to say how consultation should be done and otherwise. And regarding public consultation, I'm not sure if anybody in this audience is aware, the first public consultation was the consultation of this bill was actually done in 2010. And there are people who responded to that. And that was indeed factored into all this baked in bill. So this bill has taken about 14 years in the making. And getting everybody to agree to it was an Herculean task. I'm sure everybody here in the room realizes that. So I think as civic society, we all know the baseline is very bad today. BMTC and BMRCL have got no obligation to talk to each other. So does KRIDE. If BMLTA were to exist, at least in that board, they will talk to each other. And on the board, BMLTA board actually has got representation of 10 people who are from industry, academia, and civic society. There will be a voice for civic society to shape the mobility agenda. So this is in the right direction. Of course, you can always talk about, we could do this ideally this way, that way. I got no qualms about that. But overall, I think this is a balanced bill, with the caveat being I was involved in providing contribution to this thing. And I sincerely urge everybody in this audience to really get this bill off the block. It has taken so long to come here. If this gets passed through, then there will be opportunity during the rules and regulations stage to engage with the government in the spirit of positivity. At the end of the day, business, government, and society, they have to all work together in cohesion. So with that, I think I'm happy to answer any specific queries, but thanks for this opportunity, Shaheen.
Thanks, Satya, for joining the call and also sharing your views and also being willing to answer questions on this regard. I think some of the fundamental concerns that people are raising here are also issues, that cannot be addressed only, at a rules and regulations stage. So I would also request you to consider, some of these. I know you're not associated with the process, but would you?
I can assure you, Shaheen, actually, in this call, the amount of sessions and the conversations that went into each of the clause is unimaginable. Actually, every clause was debated, and similar issues like which are being raised in the forum were raised. And on balance, this is I would call as an fine-tuned balancing between different aspirations and other things. It's not ideal. I'm not saying so, but definitely it's in the right direction. Step forward in the right direction.
Yeah, let's thanks, Satya. Let's hear from Nagesh now. Nagesh.
I have already put all the comments in the chat session. I hope that they will be circulated. But I would like to mention one thing, that although this looks like a very gigantic committee in the comprising of multiple agencies, how are they supposed to function at all? It looks more like a flag meeting rather than a theater command, basically. What we need is a unified team which actually plans a very comprehensive mobility plan in the first place. Then parking policy, which is held up as a separate policy, which has nothing to do with the CMP. And then the RMP, which is again a separate document, all put to, who is going to put them together and link them logically. And what we need is not an executive level, flag committee, flag meetings, but rather a committee which actually works together as a unified goal, and then they derive the, all the processes using transportation engineering as the basis. Because I don't see any principles being followed. The CMP, for example, was made by BMRCL. And there they did not do any multimodal planning. The 4 steps transportation planning was never done. And they took, some random samplings taken over multiple years, and they combined them together as if this is applicable throughout the city. And the readings themselves and the experiments were conducted over, I think, a span of some 4 or 5 years, and all of them were 10 years older. So nothing was, current at that phase itself. And there is transport, TSZs, the assessment zones, were age old, actually. They don't apply to the modern city, current state. So all that basically makes it totally invalid. The CMP itself is invalid technically. I'm not going into the, legal state of it. Secondly, everybody in that gigantic committee will go for its turf, war, actually. So how they are going to cooperate in this whole thing? So all that basically, we have to deal with. I think more than that, no, all these other things like, 74th Amendment and, neither mobility nor urban transportation are mentioned in the 18 functions of the ULB in the 74th Amendment. So what are we, how are we linking BMLTA with that concept? I have no clue actually. And pre-legislative public consultation, which Sandeep mentioned, was part of the workflow defined in JN norm. It was taken down in 2014, if I remember correctly, or maybe 2015, somewhere at that time. The entire website was wound up. So where are we actually? That public consultation is not going to happen probably. It doesn't, suit the power that be. So all this, we have to take care actually. And I agree with Mukunda. I think it was Mukunda who mentioned that we have to start with our own document, our own approach, that, how it is supposed to work. And preferably not at the executive level, but at a planner level, actually. All the technocrats must get together, work together, derive a single document, which includes the mobility plan, the policy, and the master plan, actually, city master, the land use plan. So otherwise, this is going to be simply, a 6 monthly meeting where everybody has, some discussion and then go back. Thank you.
Thanks, Nagesh. I don't see any other hands raised at this point. If anyone else wants to make some remarks, please raise your hands. Satya, do you have?
Yeah. I just want to quickly respond to Nagesh. Basically, this act is based on a model act which has been recommended by MOHUA way back in 2016, and that was done after extensive consultation. You can go to the website of Ministry of Housing and Urban Transport and download their model UMTA Act and do a comparison with what BMLT has proposed, and you will see that most of the essence and principles are same. Where it has been tweaked, it is specifically to address the requirements and unique situation of Bangalore. So there is a lot of expert opinion that has gone into each of the clauses. It respects the current institutional mechanism of India. As I mentioned earlier, it's not ideal, but then that's the right way forward to make sure that every mobility provider has got a forum to talk to, and this forum is sufficiently enabled to drive constructive conversations so that the traveling commuter benefits from this. Today, we are just not able to articulate at all. If you have a complaint with BMTC, and if it doesn't get attended, BMTC has got no disincentive. If BMLTA were to there, which is there, and the annual implementation plan will ask BMTC, hey, how many complaints did you receive last year and how many did you resolve? And if they resolved below 60%, their grants and will be withheld, and that particular function can be subordinated to somebody who does it. And it's a sort of a carrot and stick mechanism which governance has to acknowledge. It can't be reset button every 5 years just because we don't like some aspects of it. So I really urge everybody on this call to think we're on bigger, higher perch as to whether, in principle, like I think Katyayani rightly mentioned, the intent of the law can't be disputed. Yeah, making sure that everybody should act in cohesion. So the sub details, there are always opportunities to tweak it going forward. But if you want to wait for an ideal law, I'm afraid we won't get it.
Thanks for sharing your views, Satya. May I, if there are no other hands raised, I'd like to go back to Devre sir and Mukunda sir, because both of them had said that they have other points to make. Or in addition to earlier points, if anyone would like to respond to the discussion so far, that's also welcome. Mukunda sir, would you like to add a few more remarks?
Basically, I'm not going to touch upon any constitutional deficiencies or legal deficiencies and all that. It has been very well tackled by Katyayani, Leo, and all these people. But practically, I think this authority should have the overall responsibility of implementing the law, and its judgment should be final and binding on everybody. And I also would like to see that the representatives, elected representatives, have a role in all these committees. Otherwise, people will have no control over all these things, and it becomes a sheer bureaucratic exercise where bureaucrats exercise their authority and bring in changes, and they're not accountable to that. So that doesn't work in the long run. And that is against the spirit of 74th Amendment. We should not do that. Practically speaking, for example, just one small example I will give, just 2 minutes, and then I will close. See, this metro line has been extended up to Kengeri now. Why is still BMTC following the hub and spoke system of having 3 major bus stations in City Market, KBS, and Shivaji Nagar, and from there start their buses? Why not they now terminate at least 80% of the routes that operate from City Market, go towards Mysore Road? They should start from Kengeri TTMC, so that they will take away so much of traffic from the road here. And at Kengeri TTMC, the connection is there to metro, and the commuter rail also is going to come up. Of course, it may take some time, at least 4 or 5 years. But after that, at Kengeri, there will be accessibility to both metro and commuter rail, and that could be used. And thereby will be increasing the footfalls for metro and commuter rail. At the same time, you will be decongesting the central portion of Bengaluru at City Market, at KBS, and even Shivaji Nagar. Near Shivaji Nagar also, we're getting a metro station. So all these things have to be considered, and public consultation at every stage, for every small modification or improvement or any incorporation of any new ideas, public consultation is a must. Actual public consultation, not the sham public consultation that they hold. Just take all the suggestions and bin it. That is not going to work. They have to give on their website the details of suggestions received from the public, and whether they have accepted or rejected. If accepted, okay. If rejected, why they have rejected and on what grounds? Financial, technical, or whatever other reasons are there. So all these things have to be incorporated, and it should be made mandatory to have this public consultation. Then and only then we will have a system of public transport which will cater to the actual needs and aspirations of the people, the commuters, for whose benefit it is being made. It is not for the benefit of anybody else. This is what I want to stress. Okay, I think for this meeting, this should be enough.
Thanks, thanks, Mukunda sir. Nagesh, do you have your hands raised again? Can I come back to you after Roshan speaks? Since you've already...
I wanted to respond to these 2 points made earlier, so probably.
Can you make it quick, like maybe a minute? And...
So this is what Mukunda said is correct actually. But when the meetings, executive and the higher meeting, basically, if they are comprising of the heads of the departments, it does not comprise of a lower level, neither in planning nor execution. There is no command and control center envisaged, for example, for a multimodal transportation. Just the heads of the department meetings once in 6 months is not going to bring any change whatsoever. So that is something which I wanted to say. And the one case in point was that, why BMTC is not actually dovetailing into the metro services and running parallel services. My response is that the TAZs, the traffic analysis zone in the CMP, never took care of all the strategy, economic strata of the city, right? Metro is not affordable for the poorer class or even lower middle class. So how can you actually even imagine that part of the journey will be exclusively metro, and then onwards there will be one more leg by the local buses? That is not possible. So we have never applied, provided for the lower middle class and poorer society sections of the society at all. And the CMP does not even talk about it. And there is no separate, citywide planning made for poorer classes. So which should have been the focus actually. Now, therefore, those people will have to entirely rely on the bus services, and the Atal Sarige and other things are anyway in doldrums. So the whole thing is not taken care of. Thank you.
Thanks, Nagesh. I'll request Roshan, then Devre sir, and then Sandeep to go over their remarks. But I also just want to interject here a little bit. I mean, and as you're making your comments, could you also please start responding to or sharing your suggestions about what we can collectively do to get some of our really critical and fundamental concerns about this bill addressed, and what collective steps can we take. One of the suggestions we have is that, I mean, since we've taken the initiative to hold this process, we will, and we have the meeting recorded also. So we'll collate all the inputs that have come today and prepare a representation, which probably all of us can sign and also take it to UDD and DULT and all of that. So that's one step that we can definitely do. But apart from this, I'm sure there are many other ways also in which we should act for these concerns to be really addressed. So I'd request everyone to also start making your suggestions in this regard as well. We will also share a Google sheet here for those of you who would like to, stay engaged with this process. Please give your contact details so that we can get in touch with you after this meeting also to take the process forward. Roshan.
Just wanted to respond to Mukunda sir and Nagesh. One is, I think, from moving from a destination model, routing model to a direction-based model has taken years. Okay, it's taken years of work to convince BMTC and others to actually do that. Second, I think Nagesh has already responded that all strata of, metro cannot be used by all strata of people because of the expense. So one is, you have to have those ticketing systems, integrated ticketing systems, such that people can easily use both the bus and metro at a lower cost. Unless that is done, you'll not probably be able to do that. Third is the mobility pattern in the city itself. During the peak, you look at the quantum of people using, I mean, I'm saying pre-COVID days, the roads are full as well as the metro is full, in particular directions. So you cannot say that buses should not compete. It's not even a competing force. It's a complementing force in many ways, and hence, I mean, people who value their time probably and are willing to travel in the congestion of metro, they would probably do that. If buses also at times during the peak hours, it's full. So that has to be taken into consideration. You can't change the mode immediately. It would take time. There would be data that you will have to analyze and see, and basis which, you have to modify the routes. The key points that I wanted to bring about, we're talking about DMLTA having so much of power in this process, and we've already seen that the city's transport as such has been deteriorated over the years because of congestion and stuff. Now, how have they regulated the private vehicles and usage of, putting down private vehicles? When Satya sir was talking about, Singapore and London, both Singapore and London have congestion charges. Singapore also has a very high license fee. Till you don't have those things in place, you're not expecting people to really use public transport, right? Because convenience is becoming a big headache. This is where somebody also mentioned about last mile connectivity. You look at it the way we've brought in, the regulation or rather permit raj in the auto rickshaws and the cabs that are there, which are primarily used for IPT system. So unless, you don't need permit to buy a vehicle and put it on the road, private vehicle, while you require a permit to run a IPT service. So either you have to, balance the things based on which you'll have, some parity in this process. That's about it. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Roshan. I'd also encourage everyone to focus more on the bill and the concerns around the bill and the authority and how we can take it forward. Because, if we go into the details of the mobility issues in itself, of course, then there's a lot more to be said. But since we're also trying to see what we can do with the bill and how we can take it forward, please do try and keep your comments focused on the bill and the process around. Thanks. Yeah, Devre sir, and then Sandeep.
Yeah, I have 3 points, but I'll make them quite quickly. First is that this bill is coming after so many years. I mean, we are just waiting for it for a very, very long time. In the meanwhile, lots of ad hoc decisions have been made. And I can just quote one example called the KRDCL's Bangalore surrounding roads. This project came up from nowhere. It has consumed about 3,000 heritage trees already. And we don't know what is the justification for that project. Now, I was therefore looking for something in this bill which will review such ad hoc projects that have come in. But I don't see any provision in that regard.
It is there, sir. It is there. Sorry to butt in. It is definitely there, sir. It is definitely there. I can point you out to the right clauses too.
Okay, fair enough. You know, I went through it today in the morning again. I'll just continue. Then you can please, Satya, please educate me on this. Number two is there is a section 27 which talks about works of urgent nature. Now, to my mind, these urgent projects are the most dangerous projects because we got the airport ready in Devanahalli, but there were no roads. So we had to do some magic boxes and all kinds of things. And so there is this provision for urgent projects is again a terrible provision because urgency can be justified and it will be very difficult for this authority to reject these urgent projects. The next point, the next 2 points is one is that the most affected stakeholder of this bill is the commuter. And but there is no representation to commuter organizations. In my opinion, Bangalore Bus Prayanakara Vedike, then there is an association of the suburban rail users. They have to be mandatorily part of the BMLTA, in my opinion. But they are the most important stakeholders. That the unions also have to be stakeholders. Unions have to be a part of the committee. And the last point that I want to make is that I really wonder whether there is any seriousness about this bill at all. Because what has happened is that the metro phases 2A and 2B were approved in June. And they were subject to formation of UMTA long ago. But the central government has also not insisted on the formation of UMTA. They have just approved these two projects. Now, if projects keep on getting approved without this UMTA, then is this bill some kind of a ritual? Is it some kind of a tick mark kind of a process? Or what is the purpose of this? So that's the basic question I would really like to raise. And with that, my points are over. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks, Devre sir. Sandeep, maybe you could make it quick also.
Yeah. So just 2 points. First is, unfortunately, Mukunda sir left. He was talking about the need for public consultation, and that's exactly what I was asking. Now, we are saying there is no public consultation. We are saying public consultation should be like this, should be like that. But how do we mandate public consultation? Not only in the pre-legislative process, in amendment process, but also in the planning process. And this is exactly the point Mukunda sir was making. My question is, how do we ensure that this gets mandated? And that's what we need to work on. And the second point I was about to make is, in this discussion, I think the idea is to discuss the legislation, not what mobility is, how it should be, what should be the multimodal planning for the city. I mean, the idea, I think what we're discussing as part of this discussion is the bill proposes setting up of an unified metropolitan transport authority. What shape should this authority take? What should the provisions or powers of this authority be? In what manner should it function? And what should its jurisdiction be? I think these are the only things we need to discuss at this point, because once the authority is there, then depending on how successful we are, it will go into the question of what kind of unified metropolitan planning is required for mobility, what kind of public consultation should be, what kind of planning should be there, intermodal connect or whatever, etc. But I think in our discussion now, we are only wondering what kind of a body it should be, what is the jurisdiction, what should be the powers, what should be the structure. I think these are the things we should focus on. That's all I want to make.
Thanks, Sandeep. We are at 6:42 now. We have to wind up in another 18 minutes. So I'll request everyone to now, please comment on how you think we can take our, these serious concerns forward in a way that we get some results out of it. I mean, we hear that the bill is almost approved by the cabinet or at the cabinet, or with UDD, it's going to be tabled in the session, etc. So we've been trying to get a sense of where the bill is right now and what stage is it in. We hear that it is likely to be tabled this session. So if that happens and it gets approved, then we already are at a disadvantage in terms of how we can get our concerns addressed. If it doesn't get tabled in the session, then probably we do have some more time to take a more coordinated action against this in terms of addressing our concerns. So I really request everyone to now focus on these points, on what we can do, what next steps we can do. My colleague Udit has also shared a Google Sheet in the chat box where if you could share your contacts, or you can even put it in the chat. We will, take it and put in the Google Sheet also. So those of you who would like to be involved in this process, please share your contacts, because we don't have any other way. I mean, those of whom we know, we can reach out to you, but others, please, unless you share your contacts, we won't have any way of getting back in touch with you. So again, just stressing that, please focus on how do we take this forward. Thanks, Nagesh and Satya. I'd request, let's not get into back and forth on the points that have already been discussed, because I think most of the points have come. So I'd request you to please focus on steps and way forward. Thanks, Nagesh and Satya.
Yeah, just to rebut what Sandeep said, actually, that we need to look at what they are set out to do, right? I mean, apart from the structure and the dynamics, the group dynamics amongst all these senior people, about 20 of them, sitting in a room, meeting twice in a year, are not going to deliver whatever we are set out to do. And that what are we said, expected to do? Looking at the parking policy, looking at the RMP also, and incidentally, that's the tail wagging the dog, and the CMP actually. Everything supposed to be wrapped up in a gigantic meeting of 20 CEOs or CXOs. I don't think so. It is not going to happen. That is what we need to focus on.
Thanks, Nagesh. Satya.
Yeah. So thanks, Shaheen.
Please be brief. Yeah.
Sure, very brief, very brief. And I think, firstly, I just want to say to everybody, all the apprehensions are laid, they are addressed in the bill. Please take a look at the bill clauses closely enough, and you'll see that it's addressed. That's my first point. Second, it has come after 14 years, almost like after one of us. 14 ವರ್ಷ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ವಿಂಟರ್ ಸೆಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪಾಸ್ ಆಗಲಿ ಅಂತ ಕೋರಿಕೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೊರತು ಇನ್ನೂ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಟೈಮ್ ಕೇಳಬೇಡಿ. ಇನ್ನು ಯು ಎಂಗೇಜ್ ವಿತ್ ದಿ government and the rules and regulations stage to get everything sorted out. Unlike Mr. Davare said, basically representation for organizations like Praja will always be there, and that has been envisaged. And that's why within the bill, there are spaces in the PMLT board for civic associations, academic associations, industrial and professional bodies. So this is, to ally Mr. Nagesh's apprehension, it is not that it's just twice a meet. That's why there is an executive committee which meets more often as required. The CEO will be empowered. There will be a professional body. As we speak, there are activities to say how will the BMLTA be operationalized? What should be the consultation process for each of these policies? How will we engage with the general public? And I think how will we really give proper feedback as to whether that comment was addressed or not, and if not, why? All these things will be done. I'm very sure of that, for a simple reason, I was heavily involved in this. Okay, I can't be more passionate enough in articulating and requesting the support of this forum and urging the government to get this bill passed next week and get these rules and regulations stage, wherein all the minor concerns or the nitty-gritties the forum has expressed will definitely be taken care of. That's been done for the day, Shaheen. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Satya. And on behalf of the forum, I would also request you to seriously engage with the critical concerns that people are raising here. I think it requires a longer discussion. And Satya, we'd be happy to do it with you if you have time.
Sure, Shaheen. I'm always available.
Yeah.
I agree.
Shaheen, can we request him to make a presentation? I mean, can we have a session from him? to really
we can all-
appreciate
I mean,
what
yeah,
is the
yeah.
hidden features. We might
No,
be missing. for all.
basically, yeah, I got the 2-pager, Nagesh, which I have uploaded. Please take a look at those 2 pages. And this is a short bill, 44 pages only. And each of the clause we can actually go through a workshop
Yeah,
format, and
yeah.
I'm quite happy to
Yeah.
accept. But then at this stage, after this, I think 14 years too much of a time for any bill to be
Yeah.
even gotten through.
Thanks, Satya. Vinay has raised his hands. Vinay, please.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think a lot of people have shared the very fundamental concerns with this bill. ಸಾರಿಗೆ ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟಂತೆ ನಾವು ಹಲವಾರು ವರ್ಷಗಳಿಂದ ನಾವು ತುಂಬಾ ಕಷ್ಟಪಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಈ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳನ್ನ ಎದುರಿಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ, ಈ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳನ್ನ ಓವರ್ಕಮ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ. ಈ ಒಂದು ಹಂತದಲ್ಲಿ ಮೂಲಭೂತವಾಗಿ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಉಳ್ಳ ಒಂದು ಕರಡು ಕಾನೂನನ್ನ ತಗೊಂಡ್ ಬಂದು ಅದನ್ನ ಇದೇ ಒಂದು ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೇ ಒಂದು ಸ್ವರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಪಾಸ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ತುಂಬಾನೇ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. I request everybody to please share thoughts either on the call or like later on about what is it we need to do, because the session is starting from 13th. Today we are on 9th. We don't even have a copy in Kannada of this bill. There are several people who are not able to engage because there is no Kannada copy. We don't know where this bill stands at the moment. So I think if we can, if people here can specifically reach out to people in the government, they know, people in the department, they know, and if we can also publicly start asking about, what is the status of this bill, and why there is no consultation before this is going to be passed. I think it will be really important. I think from each organization who are there, one is Shaheen has also shared that if we can all have a collective representation, we will draft based on everybody's concerns. So you all please share. But at bittu illiro ಸಂಘಟನೆಗಳು ಸಹ ಮತ್ತೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಇಂಡಿವಿಜುವಲ್ಸ್ ಸಹ ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಧ್ವನಿ ಎತ್ತೋದು ತುಂಬಾ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಇಷ್ಟು ಒಂದು ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳು ಇರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹಲವಾರು ಧ್ವನಿಗಳು ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಒಳ್ಳೇದು. ಸೊ ಗಿವನ್ ದ ಸಿವಿಯರ್ ನೇಚರ್ ಆಫ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ಸ್ ದಟ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್, it's good if everybody starts raising their voice, and we should also start speaking to MLAs and ask the Bangalore city MLAs if something is going to come which completely excludes them, have they even engaged with this bill? Do they know that this bill is being passed? So if different people here can even take up responsibility for tasks like speaking to different city MLAs and saying what is going on with this bill, why is it not there in Kannada, why is there no discussion, and to raise the point that when there's no elected BBMP council, how can a bill which fundamentally will change the way Bangalore will be governed in violation of the constitution be passed when there's no elected BBMP council? I think these are the questions we need to ask, and if people here can say what responsibility everybody can take in the coming few days between now and 13th to address the fact that such a bill is being passed, it will be good. So let us not have any more discussions on the points, my request, but on what is it that we can do. Thank you.
Devresa, do you have your hand raised?
Yeah. Actually, Satya said that during the stage of drafting the rules and the rules basically for the law, citizen participation would be permitted. Now, my question to him is that the bill also was put up and no public comments were invited, even for this.
In 2010, it was done, sir. This bill has got a 14-year history. 14-year history. It was done in 2010.
But my question to you, Satya, is that at this stage, when...
No, I think, Devre, sir, sorry to interrupt. I think
Yes.
at this point, Satya said whatever points he has to say. I think it's for all the citizens to figure out what is it that we want to do between now and 13th. The
ಖಂಡಿತ
session
ವಿನಯ್,
is starting from 13th.
ಖಂಡಿತ ವಿನಯ್, ನಾನು ಸಹ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ ಆಗಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಬೇಸಿಕಲಿ ನೀವು ಹೇಳಿದ್ ಸರಿಯೇ, ಆದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ಒಂದೇ ಮಾತೇನಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಆಕ್ಟ್ 14 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಮಾತುಕತೆ
ನನ್ನೊಂದು
ನಡೆತಾ ಇದೆ.
ವಿನಂತಿ, ನೀವು ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಸುಮಾರು ಮಾತಾಡಿದೀರಾ, ಈ ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಒಂದು ಅವಕಾಶ
I'm
ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು.
sorry if I indulge too
ಇಲ್ಲ,
much.
ಸೊ ನಾನ್
I'll
ಕೇಳ್ತಾ
stop
ಇರೋದು
here.
ಮಿಕ್ಕಿರವರು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಎಂಗೇಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ತಾವು ಮಾತಾಡಿದೀರಾ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ. ಬಟ್ ಮಿಕ್ಕವರು ಸಹ ಈ ಒಂದು ಅಂಶದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಂತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ.
ಖಂಡಿತ.
Vinay, if you don't mind, can I just say one sentence?
Sir, you please say whatever sentences, but I'm saying I'm requesting you to say what is it that we should do between now and 13th. Let us focus on
Yes,
that.
I think we need to quickly submit a representation of all concerned citizens, I mean, all of us present here, that there should be opportunities for public consultation. I think that is something that, to my mind, is priority. I mean, that's about all I want to say.
Thank you, sir. So 2 suggestions so far. One is we will prepare this representation based on all the discussion that we've had today. Adu navu email kottiravrge nam contact irovrge ellargu na share ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. If all of you can sign that, that's something that we can submit, and we will also demand Kannada version of the bill, and also that the government call for a wider public consultation. When I Kelatara city MLAs na reach out ಮಾಡೋದು, itara activities can we take up anybody here who can be involved, and where we can reach out to MLAs, reach out to UDD to understand where the bill stands right now. How do we get engaged in the next stages? Please do share if you can.
Shaheen, I have a suggestion.
Yes, Nagesh.
You have actually shared that form. Now
Yes.
all the inputs will come and rest somewhere, and others will not be able to see that. Can we have a non-edit kind of result sheet published somewhere where we can see what is the latest compilation, so that
The form is just
use that
for.
form?
Sorry, the form is just to collect everyone's contacts, those who want to stay involved. The compilation of all the points today, we'll put it out publicly. I mean, we'll just draft it, and based on today's discussions, and in a couple of days, we'll share it with all of you.
No, I had a different idea actually.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
if you can actually somehow manage, I'm not sure whether it is technically possible, but what we generally do in other groups is, share a Google document which is collectively edited. But then there is a danger of, people deleting or modifying somebody else's point.
Yeah.
And, there is a discipline
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
So we can actually, rather than that, resort to, somebody collecting the points from everybody and then posting it for the, consumption of the group. And where people can't edit, they can see and submit new comments,
Yeah.
That would
So,
be the fastest way to,
yeah.
collectively compile what we want to say. And
Yeah,
probably
so,
you should actually put out that document with the clear-cut sections, so that people are also inspired to comment on a specific, topic.
So what we are offering to do for sure is, all the points that have come up in today's discussion, we will put it all together and share it. If there are, we will see how we can create space for any more views also to be added in that. I think what we also need to keep in mind is the fact that, if it is tabled in this session, we don't really have too much time. So it'll also help if, some of you can. We have tried our best to reach out to UDD and to find out what is the status of the bill, but we don't have any sort of certain understanding that this is what it's going to be tabled or not going to be tabled. So if anyone else can help with that, that will also help us in planning better. So if we know that we have some more time, we can plan it in a certain way. If we know that we don't have much time, then we need to plan it in a certain way. So anyone here who can help with reaching out to UDD or any other contacts in the government through whom we can find out what is the status of the bill. Secondly, can we reach out to MLAs, or any other suggestions or any other ideas that we have in the next few days that we can do?
Can Satya actually share any presentation, some video or some PPT or something?
Satya has shared a 2-page.
No, that PDF I
I've
downloaded.
shared a
There are 2 of
2-page.
them. But apart from that, he talked about the in-depth insight, what it achieves and things like that.
I think
Rather than
the 2
summary,
pages
if
are
it is a
Satya,
more
if you could
elaboration.
share, Satya, if you could just share your contact, I would also encourage everyone, those who want to further have.
I will share
Satya
my
to please,
phone number.
Yeah.
And,
Please get in touch with Satya directly. Let's not have that conversation here now. Only in the interest of time, we have just 4 minutes left to wrap up the meeting. So, any more?
Just Shaheen, just a couple of
Yes, Matthew. Yeah.
So one is, if for engaging further, I mean, if you're putting out a public statement from BBPV or whatever form we take, just a couple of things. One is, I mean, some of the comments have already come in from Sandeep and Katyani. Should it be centered around demand for public consultation and a withdrawal of the bill without public consultation? That is one sort of form of engagement, saying that please, there's been no public consultation, please do it, and till then don't introduce and pass it. That is one sort of type of thing. The other is a more sort of substantive critique. This bill is problematic for so and so reasons, or it could be a combination of both, with one being more than the other. So I think that's one call to take. If it's a very short-term thing, if you want to get things out, I guess you can start with the demand for public consultation and also raise why, there are some issues, but not in detailed ways. Just point out whatever as the key things that came out. Some of those 3-4 points, see, there are these issues, so hence we need public consultation. So something along those lines is something that I think we can do practically within a short, say, a week period. I think, you should be able to, instead of a full-fledged, now so many comments have come in. There are some sort of comments which I think we might even internally, we might need to discuss more in terms of, what is the nature of the powers and all of that, right? So in that way, some of the basic concerns that all of us agree with, a larger demand for public consultation is one way of petitioning. That's what I was thinking.
Yes. Good suggestion, Matthew. That's something that we can do. Anything else? I think, Christine, there's a request for you to please report on the concerns that have been discussed here. Satya sir has shared his contact. So I urge everyone to please reach out to him and have one-on-one discussions also to get more clarity on the view from the drafters' perspective. Any more suggestions? If not, I think we can. I think many people have also left, so we have very few people remaining. So we couldn't thank all the other people who left, but thank you everyone for joining us today and for your active participation in the discussion. For all of you who have shared your contacts with us, we will keep you updated about this process, what we are doing and how we're taking it forward, and request all of you also to participate and contribute to these efforts. Thank you once again for joining us today. Let's do our best to see that we get a bill that serves the interest of the city and citizens. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Shane.
Thanks, Shaheen.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you all. Have a good evening. Bye.
Bye.